In real estate, it is always said, has always been said since the beginning of time, that location is everything. Location, location, location. You've all heard it and read it several times over. More specifically, when it comes to location, is what color state should you potentially invest or buy real estate in? A blue state versus a red state. Now, in the spirit of what's actually going on in the current economy, we are in a full-fledged election cycle, which means the news cycle.
The people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
Truly negative.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
And just trying to whip up as much attention and frenzy as possible.
The presidential election is now 20 weeks away.
And this particular election here in 2024 is going to be no different. This is going to be an all-out fight where there's going to be all kinds of topics being slung, such as class warfare, social issues, we've got geopolitical issues. What won't be discussed very much is going to be the idea or premise of real estate in particular markets or states and how people can take advantage of the rules, regulations, laws, taxes within those states. Which investment is going to make the most sense? Which state ultimately should I put money into? Now, there isn't a right or wrong answer here because many people successfully run thriving real estate operations, whether they own investment property or they just live and have their own asset in blue states, and others do it in red states. And some are not doing so great in each of those respective states. So it comes down to your own personal preference. But in this particular video, we're going to get into what are some of the benefits and the downsides or risks of investing in a blue state versus a red state. Because yes, your vote will matter, right? It is election season and everyone has a vote and it's gonna have a great impact. But what's gonna have an even bigger impact, or what you should be most concerned about, is your money and where you choose to invest it. But before we get into all of that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Arjun Dhingra. I've been bringing forth videos and concepts centered around real estate and helping people make better decisions around taking out mortgage debt here on YouTube and other social media platforms. I am a 23-year veteran of the mortgage industry, a two-time Taekwondo world champion, and a father to two beautiful girls right here in Northern California. It would mean the world to me if you liked this video so that I can reach more people like you and improve the quality of these videos, as well as subscribing to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. So let's get into today's topic. Now, there are three key areas that I use as criteria for evaluating whether a particular state is more advantageous than another. First are price tags associated with that real estate. Second is taxes and regulations. Third would be the landlord environment and what are rents actually like in that specific market. So first, let's start with prices. It's no secret that the more expensive real estate are in larger cities or large markets, and those markets tend to be in bluer states. Now, in larger cities, you're going to have more jobs, which means you're going to have higher salaries, and people earning those salaries are the ones that are driving up rents and driving up the price of real estate. These cities also, in the way of their actual planning and development, have limited inventory, which means that there's always far more demand compared to the available supply. And that imbalance just on its own has kept real estate out of reach for many people that live in those markets or choose to invest in them, which is why you see so many renters in large cities. Red states tend to offer a little bit more land for buck, which means your money goes a lot further. You can buy a lot more real estate that comes with a lot more space and land for the price tag that you pay. So you'll either have sprawling suburbs or ranch style homes, single family residences with large yards, not only in the front, but in the back as well. Even having things that you tend to take for granted like garage space, all at a fraction of the cost of what you would have paid in a blue state or blue market. Next are taxes, and this is really important. Blue states tend to employ the idea or the policy of sharing the wealth, which means they ultimately will have higher property taxes. These states also generally carry an income tax as well, which impacts people's net income and ability to borrow or pay for housing. Red states have a lighter approach when it comes to taxes, generally not having an income tax at all, and the property tax basis or means of actually calculating it year over year is very different, far more affordable, and ultimately this leaves more green in your pocket. Now, another thing with taxes that we have to pay particular attention to is what is the regulatory environment like, and we need to do research into this and pay close attention. If we look at states that are heavily regulated and potentially upside down fiscally, meaning they don't have their finances in order, we have to think ahead. What are they going to do to try and get out of that hole? How will they raise money or create revenue? Well, the knee-jerk reaction in most all cases, and it's very short-sighted, is to raise taxes or make it more expensive to do things in exchange for taking that money off the table. So that is something to pay particularly close attention to when you're evaluating a market. Because while the tax situation at present may not actually be affecting your decision so much, the regulatory question and what is looming or what could be coming down the road should have a major impact on your decision. Last, and I know this from personal experience, is the landlord environment and what are rents like. Blue states or blue markets will have very high rents, which almost could rival a small town mortgage. In red markets, you've got something that's far more chill and spacious, but offers much lower rent. Now again, as a landlord, someone that has owned property in both red states and blue states, I can tell you that there's absolutely no comparison, and I know what my actual preference is when it comes to owning a investment property. Blue states lean very heavily towards tenant-friendly policy and will often rule against a landlord or private property owner all the time. And on the other side of the equation, in red states, you get much more favorability towards landlords and less towards the actual tenants. Simple example, evicting a tenant who is behind on the rent or refusing to pay the rent or is destroying your property. Far easier to do in a red market, red state, because there's a very easy pathway for actually getting that done and executing on it. And these markets at the end of the day respect the rights of private property owners. In blue markets, however, that could leave you pretty handcuffed. Meaning if you have a tenant that is behind on the rent, it's not so easy to evict them. In fact, if your tenant just suddenly decided to say or actually raise a concern to a particular rental board or local government official that you are stressing them out as the landlord and they don't feel like they should be paying these kinds of rents and that they're just a little bit too overloaded right now mentally and emotionally. This is a real thing, by the way, you can look it up. To pay their rent, they can actually get into a rent abatement situation or have their rent frozen. And you, as the owner of the property, who have property taxes to pay and a mortgage most likely to pay, and your own obligations, of course, attached to that property, are left stuck with no revenue and no ability to be able to kick out that tenant and regain a new one to restore your financial house. I don't think, given my tone or how I just explained that, you should have any confusion as to which particular market I preferred as a landlord and property owner. But just remember that blue states favor opportunity and convenience, whereas in red states or red markets, the access to the real estate is going to be far less expensive. The rents may not be as high, and you're also not likely to experience that pop in appreciation. But over a longer period of time, it could be an easier and stress-free ownership tenure. So you have to really sit and think as to what's more important to you. Is having the upside of appreciation and building equity quickly more important? Having access to tenants that can always pay high rents because there's always jobs available and high demand bringing people to those markets? Or do you want the freedom and flexibility to be a little bit more relaxed about it and maybe enjoy more tax benefits and have less of a focus on immediate upside or appreciation? You'll want to talk to a tax professional and a real estate professional in any of these markets, and most importantly, a mortgage professional like this guy, to determine what's the best course for you given your tax situation and overall income and wealth. So if you have interest in investing in any particular state or learning more about those markets, my team would be honored to be able to help you work through the details and come to an actual strategy that's going to work for you. And having owned and sold lots of property here in San Francisco, if you are looking to move to the Bay Area and already have your mind made up, we would love to assist you with that transition. So drop me a comment and tell me what your preference is. Do you think red states or blue states have more favorability over the other? Do you have a personal preference? Do you have experience having invested in any of these types of markets? Again, I appreciate you watching this video, subscribing to my channel, and liking this particular topic. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you guys on the next video.